There are just 2 days to go until Congress breaks for summer recess, and there's a whole lot on the agenda. For starters, House Republicans could vote on whether to sue President Obama today over the Affordable Care Act. Also, the question of immigration reform. Both chambers are racing to reach an agreement on a border bill to address what the White House calls a, quote, humanitarian crisis. Well, joining me right now from Capitol Hill is Republican Representative Sean Duffy of Wisconsin. Congressman, welcome.
Hi, Trish.
All right, let's begin with the House vote to sue the president. Will you vote to sue him?
Yeah, we will. I mean, listen, this is pretty simple. The president has taken action that no other president has taken in regard to domestic policy to suspend laws that the Congress has passed and rewrite them through regulation. Think the welfare reform from 1996. There are work requirements. He suspended those work requirements and rewrote them through regulation. Think of the drug laws that we have federally. He's helped suspend those so Colorado could have drug sales within their state. If the president can suspend or waive laws that we in the Congress pass, what law can he suspend? Next, he'll be suspending portions of the tax code. It's undermining our whole rule of law, our whole constitutional balance.
You know, some members of your party are taking this a step further, saying that they'd like to actually impeach the president. Are you in that camp?
Listen, I think the Democrat Party and the administration are trying to push that narrative out there. I think they're trying to raise money on that narrative. Listen, Speaker Boehner was clear. I'm clear. There'll be no impeachment. We're choosing to go after the legal measures to make sure that he stays in his constitutional lane. And we're going to pursue it.
Let's turn to the border crisis, something that is really gripping the country right now. The House plan is proposing a whole lot less than what the Senate is putting forward in terms of the funding, and certainly a whole lot less than what the president is looking for. You can see $3.7 billion is the request. The House is offering up $659 million. Where do you stand on this? Do you support this bill? And if so, why the huge differential in terms of what the president is asking, what the Senate is offering up, and what you guys are looking at?
So, Trish, to be clear, the numbers that the Democrats are using are year-long proposals. Ours is a 2-month proposal. The $600+ million only goes till the end of September. And we're sending a lot of money for that 2 months to actually get border security up, to help process and take care of the kids, make sure we can help change the law, which will allow us to treat the Central American kids like we do children from Mexico or from Canada, and do what's right by the kids, reunite them with their families. But the first amount of money that's going is only for 2 months, and it's a lot. Now, we'll look at how much needs to be spent later on after we get into October, but it's a lot of money and not far off if you're to break out the Democrats' proposal on a month-to-month trajectory. You
know, let me turn to another issue that's obviously very much in focus right now, and that's Vladimir Putin, Russia, and the eastern Ukraine region. We have learned that Russia is firing artillery into eastern Ukraine. How do you see this developing? What role should the United States be playing in all of this when some might consider it more of a European problem?
Well, what starts out as a European problem always ends up becoming an American problem. I think we have to have very tough talk with very tough sanctions. And when America does nothing and says nothing, think when Vladimir Putin annexed Crimea, and really at the start of his invasion into Ukraine, he's emboldened by this. America has to talk tough and match it with tough sanctions. We can economically cripple them if we look at their energy sector, if we look at their banking sector, and even their military sector.
But we can't do it without Europe's help, right, Congressman? I mean, we need Europe involved in this. Do you feel as though there's enough will there in Europe that they will do this as a joint action with us?
No, you're absolutely right. Europe has to be on board, but right now, Europe is leading America. The president has stood back and truly led from behind, if you can even call it leading. The president needs to get out there, lay out a plan, and get Europe to follow him. I'm fearful that if we sit back and do nothing, all of a sudden we're going to find ourselves in a much worse crisis, whether it's months or years down the road, and it costs us blood and treasure. Let's get involved now. Let's take the right action to make sure we can tamp down what Putin is doing so it doesn't cost us more down the road.
And finally, just quickly before I let you go, the CFPB hearing is happening right now, and Richard Cordray is going to be speaking. What do you want to hear from him? A lot of concerns there about discrimination.
Yeah, so we've heard reports that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has racism and sexism within the agency. When whistleblowers have come forward, they've been retaliated against. We had a group of African Americans in one of the sections of the CFPB that we were referred to in a very derogatory way. They were called the plantation. A group of women in a working environment were called the cesspool. I mean, this is unheard of stuff. So we have the director coming in, and we're going to have tough questions for him about when he knew this racism and sexism was happening and what he's done to address those problems. And I'm going to tell you what he's told us so far, those answers are not sufficient. What's happened with the CFPB, it's unaccountable to Congress, it's gone rogue, and we have to make sure we start to rein them in with congressional oversight. And a lot of people in the finance sector, in the banking sector, who've had to deal with the CFPB on a first-hand basis, they get what we're talking about. So we're going to keep the push up today. Richard Cordray, CFPB, talking racism and sexism.
All right, thank you very much for joining me here today, Congressman Duffy. Coming up next, everyone, the